Okay, Heidi, we got a question, and we were talking about the radicalization was achieved, right? We know how it was achieved because I think up until now, there's so many studies that have been done. No, there's the JEC study, for example, that is about the pillars of disinformation. We know all of that.
Yeah.
All of this great work. Let's talk about, just for a minute, how do we handle radicalization? How do we address it?
Great question.
Because I have family members that fucking voted for Trump in 2020.
Right.
All right.
Yeah.
My nephew, if I have to really come clean, my nephew. All right. So it's sort of like, and he's educated. Like, we're not talking about people who, I don't know, know nothing about history. This is a person that can speak 4 languages. He's educated.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what?
Well,
I'm sure that there's probably some like masculine virility thing that's mixed up in there,
Sure.
The whole,
Misogyny
that
as
kind
well.
of thing. So how can we handle this, Heidi?
It's another great question. Wow, it's so exciting. So exciting to talk to such brilliant women, truthfully. I love it. And I love the fact that we're able to cross cultures and seas to have these conversations. So I started a podcast called Radicalized Truth Survives because A, I knew people were being radicalized, and B, I wanted truth to survive. And I built the show around my friend Jim Stewartson, who is one of the pioneers of augmented reality gaming. And a couple of years ago, he saw that something he pioneered for fun and to spread goodwill in the gaming world ended up being weaponized to radicalize people in a mass brainwashing scheme to create so-called digital soldiers to be the ones who actually ultimately show up at things like the insurrection. So how do they do it? They do it by trauma bonding, like with a lot of cults. You're kind of love bombed in. Hey, you over there. We have all your data. We know that you're aggrieved. We know you're watching Fox. We know that you believe in white replacement theory. So we're going to bring you over here and teach you about these bloodthirsty satanic Democrats. And while we do that, we're going to show you trauma videos. So you're going to actually think that people are being traumatized. Now, it's happening to women. It's not just men. What do you have? You have a perfect storm during COVID where people are home in front of their computers. They're getting sucked into these things, whether it's MAGA, which is an op, whether it's QAnon, which is an op, they're being sucked in. And suddenly you have 30+% of our country literally brainwashed into believing things that aren't factual. Not all of them are neo-Nazis. Some of them were just people going about their lives and their days. And it's like invasion of the body snatcher. How do we address it? Number one, we have to have bold statements from our president saying it's happening. Number two, we have to shut down the Telegrams, the Foxes, the OANs, the Newsmax. We have to stop the poison that is feeding people's brains. Jim, my colleague, just did a video about this, and he likened this kind of poison that's infecting people's brains to some kind of like radiation, to Agent Orange type thing. It's that level of toxicity. And the reason I know that when you turn off the spigot that's poisoning people is because our very own beloved Ruth Ben-Ghiat's mother was watching Russia Today all day. She thought Putin was wonderful and she voted for Brexit. Then in the UK, they realized we can't keep allowing this propaganda to infect people. They turned it off. She started watching the BBC. Within days, she hated Putin and felt bad about voting for Brexit. This isn't brain surgery. We can fix this.
Yeah, you got to take it away. That's what people.
Also point,
Go ahead, Livia.
Can I also point the attention that love you, Heidi, for saying everything you said, for mentioning the gaming. The game, because a lot of radicalization we don't realize is targeting our younger generations and is targeting them through radicalizing them through gaming. And there is no difference between the radicalization through gaming and the radicalization that Daesh does online.
Well, that is Steve Bannon's milieu, as you guys know. When you talk about Cambridge Analytica going bankrupt, and until Robert Mercer is in prison, and until Steve Bannon is deplatformed, we are going to continue to be in a world of hurt.
Exactly. Yeah. And QAnon also, may I point out also to our Italian audiences that might not know, but QAnon was born as the moment, actually QAnon wasn't born as a game, but the moment that QAnon was captured by Manafort, Flynn, and it became a psyop, a political psyop to install Trump, it was turned into a game, into hide clues and search. There were maps all over the internet where you could find the Q drops, and now Q is back. Q is published hours within the Roe versus Wade overturning. Q is back. The game is back.
Right.
They are seeking to radicalize more people.
And what a nice distraction after an explosive week of hearings about January 6th.
Yes.
What a very lovely way to once again deny us what we don't have in America. What we do not have is a shared reality. We used to have a nightly news person that we could turn to that was relatively trustworthy, and we could know the big facts. People could have differences, politically differences on, what their religious, spiritual lives were like, but we weren't warring with our neighbors the way we are now. And we don't have that shared reality. And what happened this last week previous to the Roe, Supreme Court, the news that came down Friday, is we had a president whose very own Christian conservative, members of his administration told how he had been trying to weaponize the Department of Justice. We had a president whose lackey was raided on Thursday morning prior to this hearing. We found out that the worst people in Congress, actually those spreading conspiracies and the big lie, had asked for pardons. We heard the most conservative member of Congress, Liz Cheney, tell the American people that Trump had abused their trust and had lied to them. One more thing. We had a Federalist Society judge, as conservative as you get, say that Trump and his allies present a clear and present danger. So of course we're going to have, gaming back. Of course we're going to have more rabbit holes for people to go down, because if you actually are paying attention to truth, things aren't looking so great for Trump.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
How this time around we can help people avoid the rabbit hole. I mean, not everybody, obviously, but as many people as possible, because this didn't happen at all leading between 2014 and 2015.
Right.
And we are suffering the results of that right now.
It's global. If you watch Kat Gellin and Dr. Charles Creel's latest film, Disinformed, showing how the wellness community is being psyoped, it ends on a very chilling note where you see the QAnon map go global. I think, first of all, those of us who are not brainwashed need to understand that we are dealing with people. People do not brainwash themselves. They are under undue influence. So if you know somebody who is under undue influence, it's just like an addict. You can't say, stop drinking. You can't say, stop doing whatever it is you're doing. What you have to be is a safe space for them. Unfortunately, we bring people back one at a time, and we do it by being that safe space. You can't come at them with facts, because they are warned that people arming with facts that are different from yours are dangerous and the problem. So all you can do is keep these people in your life, like your nephew, family members. I went through this somewhat in my own family. You keep them in your life, and then at some point they're ready to come back. When you talk to people who were brainwashed by QAnon, when they figured out that this was all a lie and a ruse, they felt such tremendous shame. And the fact that they feel that shame means it's going to be difficult for them to then make the transition back to, back to their old selves. And also, we just learned from a behavioral scientist from the Rand Corporation, even those who realize that they've been gamed, they can't help but sort of be lured back and seduced back. So there's a process that people go through. But we can absolutely arrest Mike Flynn for being a grave, danger to democracy. That man has committed treason on behalf of, a foreign nation state. And so, we need to see some of the promoters of this poison to our people arrested and unable to continue doing this type of work. It's that serious, and they continue every day.
I have one question, one additional question, if I may, Monique, is for you, Heidi. How do you see the role of education? So what I mean is that we see that there is, again, an imbalance in the United States, but also over here in certain countries in Europe, where the GOP is targeting the education curricula, is targeting school boards, is targeting schools. They are, let's say, targeting the history, the teaching of history, and so on and so on. But how do you see the role of education? Can education, proper education, unradicalize people? Do we need to work also on that front? Or is it lost already?
It's not lost already, in that the countries that are doing the best job at beating back disinformation, countries like Finland, Denmark, Estonia, Sweden, they have government working actually with the tech companies, making them pay for it, much the same way that the polluting companies have to pay for recycling in European countries. So there absolutely is a role to see where it's working. But what they have that we don't have is very strong educational systems. And when we talked to Ann Nelson, I did a very comprehensive interview with Ann Nelson in Byline Times. We see they're systemically hitting the whole school boards thing. That's not an aberration. That is to get the good people removed so they can put all of their true believers in. So education absolutely can do much to help install critical thinking and instill critical thinking at a young age. However, it has to be a very comprehensive effort where the Democrat, progressive, liberal democracies are involved in that process, because we are going to need a mass de-radicalization on scale in much the same way that people were denazified. The way they were denazified, though, were primarily with the Allied bombs dropping. We don't wish it to escalate like that. But, we in America are in terrible peril.